Сьогодні модеруватиме нашу робочий прес-брифінг.
Of this press briefing, and as you know, this is about opportunities for business and Ukrainian pharmaceutical markets, simplified registration of medicines issue, and I had the analytical center that communicate a lot with the government, and we understand that it is important to correctly regulate the markets, pharmaceutical markets in Ukraine, and we are going to speak about it with the acting Minister of Healthcare, Ulana, Suprun, Tetyana, Dumenko, Director of the State Expert Center, and Hunder, President of the American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine, Tomas, Fiala, President of the European Business Association. And in order to start and to promote our discussion, I would like to say several words. First, Ukraine as a state, as any other state, has public interest that it defends on the pharmaceutical market. In order to resolve the issue of information asymmetry, because we as consumers, when we buy medicines, we have less information and we are more vulnerable than producers because we do not know a lot about the medicines. We see only what is written on the package and we do not know what is inside. And civilized country have a clear recipe how to resolve this problem. This is competition. If there is competition, so affordability issue is resolved in this way, and also the issue of quality is resolved. So by meeting some standards, and the state should control this issue, the producers who propose quality products win in the situation. So we are going to discuss the future of pharmaceutical market in Ukraine, how to make medicines in Ukraine affordable for consumers, for all of us. And in order to continue with this topic, I would like to give the floor to Acting Minister of Healthcare of Ukraine, Ulana. Please tell us about this initiative, about why it is so important. Thank you. In Ukraine, pharmaceutical market has some disadvantages. First, this is a small assortment of efficient medicines. In Germany, they registered 45,000 medicines, and in Ukraine, we have only 13,000, so we have less choice and less competition. The prices are too high and 20 times higher than in European countries, so this is lack of competition, and the prices are medicines are overpriced, and it is difficult to find for a smaller price because those medicines are not registered in Ukraine. In order to treat blood cancer in Europe, they have many more medicines than in Ukraine, and Ukrainian patients, they do not have access to those medicines because they are not registered in Ukraine. Quality medicines that are efficient and those that are used in the international protocols of treatment. Unfortunately, our patients have to travel abroad and bring these medicines in their own bags as smuggling, because these medicines are not registered in Ukraine, because in Ukraine for a long time there was a problem with the registration, and even those medicines that were registered, that went along all the analysis, all the tests, and that the tests that are even more thorough than in the United States or Israel or other countries, they had to undergo all the tests, all the analysis, and the clinical trials, and those countries that have the same standards, so we can just register these medicines in Ukraine, and this registration were up to 90 days or even 2 and 3 years, and producers didn't want to wait for so long, and there was a lot of corruption in this area. There were a lot of requirements to get the documents, to accept the documents, and there were a lot of problems with registering medicines. Maybe you know about these problems, and the new head of State Expert Center they corrected these faults, and even when Ukrainian producers apply, they do it as well as foreign producers. And why we decided that we in Ukraine, I mean Supreme Council of Ukraine, government of Ukraine, submitted the draft law and to create a simplified procedure for the medicines that are registered in the leading European countries, in the United States, in Japan, Canada, Australia, and in order to clearly understand this, this is not only that they are registered, but they are not only registered in those countries, they are used in these countries. People use these medicines for treatment. This is not just registration. They should be in the market, they should be sold, and they should be used by the patients of those countries. Why this decision was taken? Because we saw when first we started public procurement, and we saw that we didn't have that choice that we have when we buy through international organizations, or and we saw that there is lack of medicines, and also we saw that the prices are too high, and in other countries there is competition and there is big choice, competition on the market. So the same, you can buy original drug or 5 or 10 generics, and in the foreign countries I've mentioned they have bioequivalence with the original drug, and this is strict requirement. They have the same effect as the original, and as we all know, generics can be cheaper. And do we have problems with generics? In Canada, 64% of all the drugs are generics. In Germany, 85%. In Great Britain, 80%. In France, 80%. In Ukraine, 10,000 of all the drugs, they out of 13, they are generics. So generics, we do not have any problems with them, and our citizens who buy these medicines or get them through affordable medicines program, these medicines are generics. People think that this is original, but in reality these are generics. What we want that our friends, our families, that we have 2 quality medicines, and that they were provided through affordable medicines program, or that they had the price, were able to afford and not to be financially ruined. So we should broaden our market to have more medicines. There should be competition in order to decrease the price. To introduce the protocols, international protocols, we have to have these medicines in our country. There is Ukrainian pharmaceutical business, and we want to develop it. We want to motivate them to enter global markets, to send medicines in other countries, but they should adhere to the standards. And the simplified procedure will provide our patients with option, better methodology of treatment through international protocols, and a decrease of price. And for a long time we have been developing bylaws, we wanted that they were coordinated with business associations, with ministries, with state expert service, with patient organizations, and to do it in a correct way, in order not to allow those medicines that shouldn't come on our market. And we should simplify the procedure for these medicines that are from the leading countries. They should be reliable, affordable, and there should be proper choice. So we should be able to choose what medicines to use. And this is our goal, and I believe Tetyana will tell us how we resolve this issue and how this registration will look like. So there are good steps about e-documents, about single window, simplified procedure, and this is now available in the Ukrainian market. So, Tetyana, you're given the floor. Good afternoon. And in continuation of those words that Ulana said, I would like to inform you more broadly about technical but really important instruments developed by the State Expert Center, and also changes introduced in the legal field that will simplify the entering of drugs into our market. And we worked with the business association, representatives of civil society, patient organizations to develop changes that look technical, but they help us to bridge those technical discrepancies concerning the regulation of drugs in different countries. And the EU countries, United States and Japan, they have a discrepancy in this area. So in order to allow medicines to Ukrainian market and to use the information from other regulatory agencies, we were supported by the Ministry of Healthcare and the Cabinet of Ministers and the Ministry of Justice. And so the absence of norms didn't allow us for several months to go along the way to introduce the simplified procedure we are speaking about. As you may know, in Ukraine we have the function of entities such as representatives of applicants, and the submission of documents can be done through the proper application. And previously it was not mentioned that a foreign company can be represented by a special representative, and also the translation into Ukrainian from English. This problem is minimized now because the applicant will only present passport part in Ukrainian. This is done for further acceptance of documents, and everything else can be submitted into, can be provided into English. And the module 4 and 5, the parts of dossier about clinical data, it can be provided electronically, and we have the opportunities for getting such documents. And this is also for protection of the data that you submit to the ministry and to the center. And also, in order to provide proper information to customers, there are proper instructions. There will be the notary tested copies.
We also have differences in interpreting the abbreviations which are in other jurisdictions have other definitions. In our expert center, we decided to put definitions into this Order 1245 as concerns abbreviations. New procedures of mutual recognition and recognition of the decisions made by authorities. During 2017, as Ms. Suprun said, the electronic forms of applications have been developed on full dossier and amendments, applications for amendments to full dossier, but they are not used commonly by applicants, but we will proceed moving this path because this is the only way to prevent human factor influence. We made the resource accessible for users and potential applicants, and it demonstrates that we keep to our responsibility, to our duties on transparency. This is a register of clinical research where all clinical research are represented, so patients could respond and use this opportunity and get state-of-the-art treatment, modern treatment. So a new building of the expert center also hosts a service center where applicants will be capable to submit documents and get them one day after they are issued. This form of functioning would be comfortable for applicants because now we have queues. The State Expert Center understands its mission and role in making medicines accessible, physically accessible for patients. Two procedures are in operation. The first procedure is authentication procedure. The second is the procedure of registration within 45 days upon expert examination. There are working procedures. Over 70 procedures have been led to the market of Ukraine, and those patients who suffer social dangerous diseases, they got generics, but they got good treatment protocols. This concerns TB, HIV patients, so we understand our mission and role, and we are ready to work with patient organizations, with applicants on improvement of our activities. Thank you. Mr. Andy, Mr. Tomas, can you share your understanding, your experience of how the registration procedures look like in other countries? How manufacturers from other countries have the opportunity, do they have the opportunity to enter Ukrainian market? Do members of your association feel problems with this, and what you expect from simplified process? Thank you. On behalf of the companies, members of the American Trade Chamber, I would like to thank for this format of this event, and along with the acting minister and the State Expert Center and the European Business Association, we have been jointly working. This is the European format. This is how the work is organized in the USA, in the EU, when pharmaceutical companies, along with expert centers and ministries, have dialogue with the final focus on patients who should get accessible drugs, and I am glad, and we agreed the introduction of fast-track procedure. Maybe within several weeks it would be possible to apply online for fast-track procedure of registration of medicines, and Ms. Acting Minister said that this would boost competition on the market, and Ukrainian market will have then more drugs on the marketplace. The procedure in the EU and the FDA in the USA, they conduct thorough researches for many years, and then a certificate of quality is issued. We are glad that the best practices of the EU and the USA will be accumulated by Ukraine. Could you make us an accent on the Euro integration of Ukraine? Can you give us some examples of best practices from the EU? Thank you. I would like to confirm what Andy said, that this model of cooperation, which is already in place between the European Business Association and US Chamber and the Ministry, the model which EBA, ACC and the Committee on Health of our organization supports, and we hope that what has been adopted, it would be implemented and will work correctly and appropriately, and we think this is a step towards patients, users and suppliers, pharmaceutical businesses who are already on the market or who are willing to enter Ukrainian marketplace. International companies, I would like to address them with the message that the fast-track registration would allow to expand the access of Ukrainian consumers to the medicines, again to control diseases which are unavailable now on Ukrainian market, but they are available on the marketplaces in the EU. This is oncology, cardiovascular diseases, neurology, obstetrician, hemophilia, Parkinson disease. I think it would be very useful if the offer of these medicines this way would be expanded. Then control of these diseases would be better, and it will develop like in European countries. Thank you very much. We have heard the stand of the state, the government, the businesses, and question then whether there is today a problem with the state registration of medicines. It is obvious because businesses are saying that there is no transparent access to the market. Is the problem relevant? Yes, it is relevant because medicines should be accessible and accessibility should be improved. The question to our speakers, we have already expressed the main content of today's briefing. Please now ask questions. Let's focus on the topic of the briefing and
Доброго дня, Ольга Куп.
Good afternoon, Olga Kopriyanova, Zdоровье Info portal. So, is the system of simplification in operation, or it will be introduced? Thank you for your question. There are several types of simplification of procedures. The majority of them are in place, and the last was introduced at the end of 2016. And the recognition of decisions of regulatory agencies, they are improved by some amendments. So there were some attempts of registration of medicines through the simplified procedure, and we saw the problems. We had a number of meetings with business associations and producers who wanted to register medicines, and they said what problems they faced on their way, and the state expert center also supported us, and so whether they put mg or milligram, so this is not really what is important, and we had to decide small problems and big problems as well in order to understand how these conclusions of the trials look like, whether they are compatible with European ones, and so we know that there is another system, and you said about the system, and there are different systems in the European Union, in Japan, and Australia, and Israel, and we had to harmonize this because the certification documents in different countries, they look differently, and also a Canadian producer of generics, it submitted the documents, but these documents looked differently, so we had to add other documents, but they succeeded to pass the procedure. But it didn't take 17 days, it took longer, and now we call on producers to apply, and there will be pilot registrations in order to see that it works, because we believe that we solved the problems, and we are ready to cooperate in order to help and simplify the procedure. Second, I would like to confirm the fact that this simplified procedure, this is in order to get more medicines, in order to better cooperate with business associations, and this is in the framework of our government program, our government view. We want to simplify doing business in Ukraine, to have international producers, and in order to have quality medicines, in order that our patients had access to these medicines, because for many years it was difficult to enter our market. We want to open doors in order that they enter our market, and we want to open doors in order that those producers and those markets in Europe and other countries, that they know about our markets, our producers, and to support our Ukrainian pharmaceutical companies. 76% of medicines we use in Ukraine, they are of Ukrainian production, and we support this area, but we want our patients to have choice, and we would like to have not 13,000 but 30,000 of available medicines. Next question, please. The girl in the third row, Katalina Pachinska, Tetyana, have a specifying question. So, for example, a European company have a certificate, and in order to enter Ukrainian market, is this certificate enough? Not only certificate. they should provide all package of registration dossier in order to protect rights of patients in Ukraine. And these conditions of product in the market, this is a dynamic process, and each medicine is improved, and in order not take away the chances for improvement, there should be full package of the dossier that will correspond the package that was submitted in other countries. This is a norm that is accepted everywhere, so the results of the expertise of other agencies are recognized. So we wait for we verify whether they submitted these documents, and we do not carry out examinations, and this is done based on the documents provided by other agencies. So Ms. Ulana said that our market is listed, and now what will be the first medicines? What are the most pressing needs in the market? I would like to say that applicants can submit their documents. The attractiveness of market is important, and now we get applications, and there is big interest in the treatment of socially threatening diseases, and also this is a philosophical question: what drugs are needed in Ukraine? In each situation it can be different. For example, we had needs in some medicines for some separate situations. So this is about simplification, and everyone has equal conditions on this. As Tetyana said, we are interested to have maybe not innovative but modern medicines for HIV/AIDS, hepatitis C/B, and for oncology patients. And also there is lack of registration of medicines for orphan diseases, and to buy them through international organizations, and they have to register in Ukraine. And these are our pressing needs in Ukraine, and we ask the applicants from different countries to enter the market in Ukraine in order to have better choice. And now the treatment of oncology patients is carried out according to outdated protocols and expert groups who work at the ministry, and there are public procurements, and we improved those drugs for oncology treatment, and the new protocols are in place. They are more efficient. The drugs have less side effects, so we are interested to have a broader choice in Ukraine. And I would like to ask Tetyana about the difference in price if the producer undergoes simplified or unsimplified procedure. So there is a big difference if we compare the procedure of registration of generic medicine. This is 10 times higher price than in the simplified procedure we are speaking about. So this will be precondition in order to have affordable medicines. Irina Vinokurenova, ICTV channel, question to Ulana. So this simplified registration, this is only about medicines or also about vaccines and serums? So this is about vaccines and serums. For us, it is really important. You know that there is lack of serums in Ukraine, and we can buy them through state procurement, but we then should register them, or we get them as humanitarian help. And also for vaccines, there can be a simplified procedure, and there is half simplified procedure through public procurement, but this will be quicker and easier than before, and this is for medicines, vaccines, and serums and medical devices. This is different. Now we are speaking only about medicines, vaccines, serums, and ways of treatment. So, do you have other questions? Please ask.
Olana Cook, TV channel 24. How the system has changed, how much it is simplified, what were the complications, for example, no electronic application form, so that we can compare previous procedure and new procedure and how the cost would be changed. Just give us some sizes, what we had and what we have now. I do not have infographics on me today. I promise those would be repeated on the website of the State Expert Center, and you will see it there. I would like to say in brief that the cost of expert evaluation of our works would be several-fold lower, whether it would have impact on the prices of filing products. I hope so. As concerns periods of consideration of those applications, yes, they will be shorter because the electronic form of application and the new procedure, they shorten the period to 0 days. We can issue documents the same day. And if we compare with the procedure of generic products, 90 days and 17 days, the procedure would be 4 times shorter. Expert evaluation of 210 days it was previously, and now the procedure is far shorter. I would like you to look at one more aspect, that the application will be shorter. This means that the period of preparation of application would be shorter because translation took from 1 to 3 months of time of the applying company. Another question, Victoria Vinogradova, the Embassy of Canada. Canadian companies address us, and you say the registration procedure is already in operation, but our company's applicants, they were said that if there is any small mistake, you will pay registration fee again. So it's a kind of sabotage. What you can tell us? Thank you for this question. If I have 2 proposals, if you have sabotage facts, please apply to us in writing. However, I have already accepted your your statement, and there are practices what we were talk about today, that previous procedure prevented us from looking into the differences on the documents submitted in other countries and in our country. Before this new order, the abbreviations differences were allowed, and now it is not allowed. So, according to the expert center, the businesses were consulted on this. We had roundtable discussion, and we tried to list the shortcomings, and we put efforts to lift the problems which you mentioned. Please apply to us in writing on behalf of a specific company so that we can classify whether it was a case of sabotage or it was not. It was 3 weeks ago. If you say about the letter, there were other formulations in it, and the request is answered within 30 days. These methods of sabotage were very often before. The business association would agree with me that their members complained about the non-simplified procedure, and they demanded to make the process faster via some additional payments, and that is why Ms. Tetyana delivered free of charge consultation. They can come and ask whether everything is okay. This is a consultation free of charge. It is envisaged, and if after this consultation the application was not correct, so we need you to submit your claims, your complaints in writing. Otherwise, we can't respond to the facts of sabotage of some persons who may act illegally. So we need to get written statements, written claims to me or to Ms. Tetyana so that we see. Because all persons who are here now in this hall, we are interested in this procedure to be operational so that there are no sabotage facts and no secret commissions or illicit payoffs. Within 17 days, everything should be done and no secret commissions are payable for faster consideration. If all documents have been agreed and reconciled, the medicine should be registered. If it is not so, please submit your claims to us. As we see, the state is transparent, the government is transparent. So if you have a problem, if your company experiences a problem, please address the governmental representatives. They understand very well how the procedure should work, so that there are no mechanisms about any corruption facts. More questions? Do we have more questions? Ms. Ulana, you said about the affordable medicines problems. The European representatives, have they already thought about whether any drugs would be added to this program, or in the program affordable medicines for 2017, more than half of the medicines in the program, they are of European manufacturers. but we extend the program. There will be additional nosologies, diseases, so that additional manufacturers enter these 3 nodologies which are on the list, and according to the fast track procedure there will be more interest among manufacturers because they will not be waiting for 90 days and the cost of expert evaluation would be lower, so the time and efforts would be lower which they need to put, so it would be easier for them. Affordable drugs program is a voluntary program. Manufacturers or suppliers who entered our affordable medicines program, they are volunteers, and we encourage them, we do not force them. So fast track procedure is encouragement to them. Whether business associations agree? Yes, we agree. I'd like to add the anti-corruption topic recently is very popular, so simplification of registration primarily in terms, in the opinion of businesses, is a systemic anti-corruption measure. Are there any questions? No questions. This means that we have presented to you exhaustive statements. I would like to sum up. Competition, it drives the progress in the world, and the world is ever changing, and it changes fast. So for our patients not to become victims of our post-Soviet closed system, we should open our markets for foreign manufacturers, and taxpayers' funds should not be spent to fuel corruption. And if some other state has already done some work, this work should not be duplicated in Ukraine. So applicants, businesses will feel easier, and more manufacturers will come to the market, and the medicines would become more affordable because the prices would be lower thanks to higher competition. And there will be less possibilities to corrupt our state. So please communicate to the ministry, to the State Expert Center, to the Office of Efficient Regulation and Business Association.